Welcome to Mr. Horror, where we bring you the most bone-chilling true stories you'll ever hear. Get ready to face your fears and experience the horror that lurks in the shadows. Are you brave enough to join us? It was the first day of my sophomore year of high school. I was excited to be back and see my friends, but there was also a feeling of unease in the air. Rumors had been circulating all summer about strange occurrences happening in the school. People talked about hearing footsteps in the hallways at night, doors slamming shut on their own, and even seeing shadowy figures lurking in the shadows. But I didn't pay much attention to the rumors. I figured they were just silly stories, the kind of thing that always comes up when people have too much time on their hands. That is, until I saw it for myself. It was after school, and I was walking down the hall to my locker. The lights were flickering, and the air was cold and damp. And then I saw it, a figure standing at the end of the hall, watching me. I couldn't see its face, but I could feel its eyes on me, like it was trying to communicate with me. I tried to run, but my feet wouldn't move. It was like I was frozen in place, trapped by the figure's gaze. And then, just like that, it was gone. The lights flickered back on, and the air returned to its normal temperature. I told my friends about what had happened, but they didn't believe me. They thought I was just trying to scare them. But then, more strange things started happening around the school. Doors would slam shut on their own, lockers would open and close on their own, and sometimes we could hear whispering voices in the halls. It was like something was trying to communicate with us, trying to tell us something. But we didn't know what. And then, one day, we found it, a secret room in the basement of the school, hidden behind a bookcase. Inside the room, we found something that made our blood run cold. It was a collection of old photos showing the school and the town from years ago. And then we saw it. In the background of every photo, there was a figure watching us. We didn't know who or what it was, but we knew one thing for sure. It was still with us, still trying to communicate with us, even after all these years. We started researching the history of the school, trying to find any clues about who the figure could be. And then we found it. A story from years ago about a student who had died under mysterious circumstances, her body never found. It was rumored that her spirit still haunted the halls of the school, seeking revenge for her untimely death. We didn't know if the story was true or not, but we couldn't ignore the strange occurrences happening around us. It was like the spirit was trying to tell us something, trying to make us pay attention. But we were too scared to do anything. We didn't want to provoke the spirit or make it angry. And then, one night, something happened that changed everything. We were at the school for a late-night event, and everything seemed normal. But then, we heard a sound. It was like someone was dragging something heavy across the floor. We followed the sound to a classroom, and then we saw it, the figure standing in the middle of the room, watching us. We were frozen in fear, unable to move, and then the figure started to move towards us, slowly but surely. We knew then that we had to do something, anything to stop the spirit from harming us. But what could we do? We were just high school students, powerless against the supernatural. We knew we had to act fast if we wanted to survive the night. We looked around the room, searching for anything that could help us, and that's when we saw it, a book on the desk. It was an old book with a strange language written on the cover. We didn't know what it was or where it came from, but we knew we had to try. We opened the book and started reading the strange symbols inside. It was like a spell, a way to communicate with the spirit and ask it to leave us alone. We were nervous, scared that we were only making things worse. But then we felt a cold breeze on our faces, like someone was breathing on us. And then it happened. A figure disappeared, and the room returned to normal. We looked at each other, relieved that we had survived the encounter. But we knew that it wasn't over. The spirit was still out there, still seeking revenge for what had happened to her all those years ago. The next day, we decided to go to the library to do more research. We found more stories about the student who had died under mysterious circumstances, and we started to piece together what had happened. It seemed like the student had been bullied by her classmates, teased and tormented until she couldn't take it anymore. And then, one day, she disappeared, never to be seen again. We realized that we had to do something to make it right, to make amends for what had happened all those years ago. We decided to organize a memorial for the student, to honor her memory and show that we cared. It wasn't easy, but we worked hard to make it happen. We collected donations, created posters, and spread the word to the entire school. And on the day of the memorial, something strange happened. We were gathered in the courtyard, holding candles and saying prayers for the student. And then we saw it, the figure standing in the back of the crowd, watching us. But this time, it was different. It wasn't angry or vengeful. It was peaceful, like it had finally found the closure it needed. And then, just like that, it was gone. We knew then that we had done the right thing, that we had finally put the student's spirit to rest. The strange occurrences around the school stopped after that day, and we never saw the figure again. But we knew that it would always be with us, a reminder of the past and the lessons we learned. We learned that we should never underestimate the power of the unknown, and that sometimes the answers we seek are closer than we think. Years have passed since that night, but I still remember it vividly, a high school horror story that changed my life forever. After the memorial, things went back to normal. The strange occurrences stopped, and we never saw the figure again. But we all knew that it would always be with us, watching over us and reminding us of the lessons we learned. I went on to graduate from high school, then college, and eventually started my own family. But I never forgot about the student who had died all those years ago and the strange occurrences that followed her death. And then, one day, I received a message from an old high school friend. She had found something that she wanted to show me, something that she had discovered while going through old school records. It was a newspaper article from years ago detailing the student's disappearance and the subsequent search for her body. And then, at the bottom of the article, there was a note. The note was from the principal of the school, thanking the students who had organized the memorial for the student. He said that it had brought closure to the school and that he hoped that it would serve as a reminder of the importance of compassion and understanding. I felt a sense of peace wash over me as I read the note. It was like the principal had been there with us that night, watching over us and guiding us towards the right path. And then I realized something. The student's spirit had never been angry or vengeful. It had just been lost, searching for a way to communicate with us and ask for our help. And we had given it that help through the memorial and the compassion we showed for her memory. It was like we had given her the closure she needed to move on, to finally rest in peace. I knew then that the high school horror story was not just about ghosts and spooky occurrences. It was about the power of compassion, of how a small group of people can make a difference in the world. I will always remember that night and the lessons I learned from it. The importance of listening to those who are unheard, of showing compassion for those who need it most. And I hope that the student who died all those years ago knows that she has not forgotten, that her memory lives on through the lessons we learned from her. It was a dark and stormy night, and the high school was empty except for a handful of students who had stayed late to work on a group project. They were in the library, huddled around a table, when they heard a strange sound coming from the hallway. It was like something was scratching at the door. At first, they thought it was just the wind, or maybe a loose animal. But as the sound grew louder and more persistent, they realized that there was something more going on. They all froze, unsure of what to do. But then, one of them got up to investigate. She opened the door, and then she saw it. The figure standing at the end of the hall, watching her. She tried to scream, but no sound came out. She was frozen in fear, unable to move. And then, just like that, the figure disappeared. But the students knew that they had just encountered something supernatural, something that they couldn't explain. They tried to brush it off, to tell themselves that it was just their imaginations playing tricks on them. But deep down, they knew that it was something more. The next day, they tried to tell their classmates about what had happened, but no one believed them. They thought it was just a silly story, the kind of thing that kids make up to scare each other. But the students knew the truth. There was something in the school, something that was trying to communicate with them, trying to tell them something important. And they were determined to find out what it was. They started doing research, looking through old yearbooks and school records to try to find any clues about the school's past. And that's when they discovered the truth. Years ago, the high school had been the site of a tragic accident. A student had died under mysterious circumstances, and the school had covered it up, trying to protect its reputation. But the spirit of the student had never left the school. It was still there, haunting the halls and trying to communicate with anyone who would listen. The students knew that they had to do something, that they had to help the spirit find peace. But they also knew that they were up against something powerful, something that they couldn't fully understand. The students continued their research, determined to find a way to help the spirit of the student find peace. They discovered that the student who had died was a talented artist and that her paintings had been hidden away in a storage room in the school. They knew that the paintings must be the key to understanding what the spirit was trying to tell them. They went to the storage room and found the paintings, but they were surprised to see that they were all abstract and surreal with no clear meaning or message. They took the paintings back to their classroom and started to analyze them, looking for any clues or hidden messages. And that's when they started to notice something strange. The paintings all seemed to be connected, like pieces of a larger puzzle. They noticed that certain shapes and symbols appeared in multiple paintings, and that the colors and textures seemed to be linked in some way. They started to piece together the paintings, trying to make sense of the larger picture, and that's when they saw it. The message that the spirit had been trying to communicate to them all along. The paintings formed a map of the school with certain areas marked in red. They knew that these were the places where the spirit had been most active, where it had tried to communicate with them before. They followed the map, going to each of the marked locations and looking for any signs of the spirit, and that's when they found it. In the old music room, they found a piano that had been covered in dust and cobwebs. But as soon as they started to clean it off, they heard a strange sound. It was like someone was playing the piano, but there was no one there. They looked around, trying to see where the sound was coming from, and that's when they saw her, the spirit of the student, standing in the corner and watching them. They didn't know what to do, but then they remembered the lessons they had learned. They knew that the spirit was trying to communicate with them and that they needed to listen. They started to talk to the spirit, telling her that they understood what she was trying to tell them. They told her that they wanted to help her find peace, to make sure that her memory would never be forgotten. And then, just like that, the spirit disappeared. But this time, it was different. There was a sense of peace and closure in the air, like the spirit had finally found the rest it had been seeking. The students knew that they had done something important, that they had helped the spirit find peace. And they knew that they would always remember the lessons they had learned about the power of compassion and understanding. After their encounter with the spirit, the students knew that they had been changed forever. They had experienced something that most people never do, something that had opened their minds to a whole new world of possibilities. They continued to research the history of the school, trying to uncover more stories and secrets that had been buried over the years. And they started to notice something strange. Whenever they were in the presence of the spirit, they felt a strange energy, like something was pushing them forward. They knew that it was the spirit trying to guide them towards something important. They followed the energy, going deeper and deeper into the school, and that's when they found it. A hidden room, hidden away behind a false wall. Inside the room, they found a collection of old documents and artifacts, all relating to the tragic accident that had happened years before. They pored over the documents, trying to make sense of the tragedy that had taken place. And that's when they found something surprising. The accident hadn't been an accident at all. It had been a deliberate act of violence perpetrated by someone within the school. And the student who had died had been a victim, caught in the crossfire of a bitter conflict that had been brewing for years. The students were shocked by what they had learned, but they knew that they had to do something. They couldn't let the truth remain buried, hidden away from the world. They started to investigate, trying to find out who was responsible for the tragedy. And that's when they discovered something even more shocking. The person responsible was still alive, still living in the town, and they were still holding on to the secrets of what had happened all those years ago. The students knew that they had to confront the person to make sure that justice was served, and that's what they did. They went to the person's house, confronting them with the evidence that they had gathered. And at first, the person denied everything, trying to hide behind their lies and deception. But then, something strange happened. The spirit of the student appeared, standing right next to the person. And the person knew that they couldn't hide from the truth any longer. They confessed to what they had done, admitting to their part in the tragedy that had taken place. And the students knew that they had finally found closure, that they had made sure that justice had been served. They left the house, feeling a sense of relief and closure that they had never experienced before. They knew that they had done something important, that they had helped to heal the wounds of the past. And as they walked away from the house, they knew that they would always remember the lessons they had learned. That sometimes the greatest horrors are the ones that we create ourselves, but that with compassion and understanding, we can overcome even the darkest of secrets. It was a beautiful day at the high school, and everyone was excited to start a new year. The students were all busy catching up with their friends, and the teachers were all eager to start teaching. But as the day wore on, something started to feel off. There was an unsettling feeling in the air, like something was wrong. And then it happened. One of the students went missing. No one knew where she had gone or what had happened to her. The school was thrown into chaos, with rumors and whispers spreading like wildfire. The teachers tried to keep everyone calm, but it was clear that something was seriously wrong. The students started to act strangely, like they were hiding something. There was talk of secret societies and rumors of deals with the devil. No one knew what was true, but the atmosphere in the school was tense and foreboding. The teachers tried to keep things under control, but it was clear that something was seriously wrong. As the days passed, more and more students disappeared without a trace. The rumors only got worse, with stories of strange rituals and mysterious symbols appearing around the school. Everyone was on edge, watching their backs and looking over their shoulders. And then it happened again. Another student went missing, and this time there was no doubt about it. it. Something was seriously wrong in the high school, and no one knew what to do. The teachers tried to reassure the students, telling them that everything was going to be all right. But it was clear that they were just as scared and confused as everyone else. The students started to band together, trying to figure out what was happening and how to stop it. They formed their own secret society, trying to uncover the truth behind the disappearances. As they dug deeper, they discovered something even more disturbing. The disappearances were linked to an ancient curse placed on the school by a vengeful spirit. The students knew that they had to do something to break the curse and stop the disappearances once and for all. But they also knew that it wouldn't be easy. The students banded together, determined to uncover the truth behind the curse that was plaguing their high school. They searched for clues, looking through old yearbooks and school records for anything that could help them. And then they found it, an old newspaper article detailing a tragedy that had occurred at the school over a century ago. It was a story of a young girl who had been brutally murdered by her jealous boyfriend, who then killed himself in a fit of rage. The tragedy had left a stain on the school, and some believed that the girl's spirit still haunted the halls. The students knew that they had to find a way to break the curse to put the girl's spirit to rest once and for all. They researched everything they could find about spirits and curses, determined to find a way to end the nightmare that had taken over their school. And then they had an idea. They would hold a seance to try and communicate with the girl's spirit and find out what she wanted. They gathered in the school's abandoned auditorium, sitting in a circle around a makeshift altar. They lit candles and chanted, trying to summon the girl's spirit. And then something strange happened. The candles flickered, and a cold wind swept through the room. The students felt a presence, like someone was watching them. And then a voice spoke. It was soft and gentle, but also filled with pain and sorrow. The students asked the spirit what she wanted, and the answer was surprising. The girl didn't want revenge or justice. She just wanted to be remembered. She wanted the students to know her story, to understand what had happened to her, and to make sure that she wasn't forgotten. The students promised to do just that, to honor the girl's memory and to make sure that her story was never forgotten. And then the seance was over. The candles flickered out, and the room was filled with silence once again. The students felt a sense of peace and closure, like they had finally put the ghost to rest. They knew that the curse had been broken and that they had made a difference. As they walked out of the auditorium, they felt a weight lifted from their shoulders. They knew that the school would never be the same, but they also knew that they had done something important. They had shown compassion and understanding, even in the face of darkness and fear. And they knew that they would always remember the lessons they had learned and the girl whose spirit they had put to rest. The students had broken the curse that had haunted their high school for so long. They had put the spirit of the murdered girl to rest and had found peace in knowing that they had made a difference. But as they went back to their daily lives, they knew that they couldn't forget what they had learned. They had seen the dark side of the world and had been reminded of the fragility of life. They knew that they had to be kind and compassionate, to never forget the lessons they had learned in the face of fear and darkness. And so they started a movement. They spread the story of the murdered girl and of the curse that had haunted their school. They used it as a reminder of the power of empathy and understanding, and of the importance of remembering those who had been lost. The movement spread throughout the school and soon beyond it. People everywhere were inspired by the students' story and by their willingness to face the darkness and come out stronger on the other side. The students knew that they had done something important and that they had made a difference in the world. They had shown that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope and compassion. And so they continued to spread their message, to remind people of the importance of empathy and understanding. They knew that the world could be a dark and scary place, but that there was always a light at the end of the tunnel. As the years passed, the students graduated and went their separate ways, but they never forgot the lessons they had learned, and the story of the cursed high school remained a part of their legacy. And though they knew that they could never erase the tragedy that had occurred, they also knew that they had found a way to honor the memory of those who had been lost. They had faced their fears and come out stronger on the other side, and in doing so, they had shown the world that even in the face of darkness and fear, there is always hope. Thank you for watching this creepy true high school horror stories. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more like it, please consider subscribing to our channel and hitting the bell icon to be notified when we post new content. Your support means everything to us, and we appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. We hope that this scary stories has entertained and perhaps even inspired you. Don't forget to leave a comment and let us know your thoughts on this scary stories. We love hearing from our viewers, and we are always looking for new ideas for future videos. Thank you again for watching, and we look forward to sharing more true horror stories with you in the future.